Welcome everyone to another episode of Retro Wrestling Reviews. Fredo Esparza here, and this week we look back at Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's January 16th, 1982 show. But before we get to the review, be sure to click that subscribe button. We'll have more wrestling show reviews as well as the Lucha World podcast and other content available on this YouTube channel. This week's episode was taped on January 13th, 1982 at the WPCQ TV studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bob Caudle and David Crockett are on commentary, and they again mention the contest for the wrestler who performed the best in 1982. Roddy Piper joins Bob Caudle and David Crockett. Caudle tells Piper that he's surprised that he's gotten so many votes in that contest, which Piper jokes that Caudle must surprise easily. Piper talks about being on a national TV show. Crockett asks Piper what he thinks about Ole Anderson searching to pick a tag team partner to defend the NWA World Tag Team titles. Piper says that he knows who Ole has in mind, but won't tell them. First match on the show had Terry Taylor beating Ben Alexander after catching him in an abdominal stretch and then dropping down to the mat for the pin. Piper stays on commentary and tells Caudle he will provide expert advice. They mention Terry Taylor being the 1981 NWA Rookie of the Year. This match was okay. Alexander got in some offense, but Taylor was able to cut him off every time it looked like he was in trouble. David Crockett returns during this match on commentary and tells everyone that Sergeant Slaughter was upset backstage and grabbed him and asked him for his $1,000. Roddy Piper tells Crockett to give Sarge his money back, but Crockett told him Sarge can get his money back after he gives Blackjack Mulligan Jr. another shot at the Cobra Clutch Challenge. After the match, Terry Taylor joins Bob Caudle for an interview where he said Ben Alexander was a tough opponent and he was lucky to get the win over him. The second match was Austin Idol beating Mike Davis with the Las Vegas leg lock. Idol told everyone that the women wanted to see what a real man looked like. This was a competitive but short match. Idol kicked and punched Davis throughout the match. That was pretty much the bulk of the offense throughout. Idol just dominated the match, really. That was then followed by Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Mulligan Jr. joining Bob Caudle and Sr. mentioning that he's been getting a lot of letters from fans asking him to do more for Jr. He states that when something happens to Jr. in the ring, it hurts him as a parent, but says that he has to let his son do things on his own. Blackjack Sr. said he called for a big family meeting and he was told that he had to let his son handle his own battles. Sr. says that Jr. is going to become the greatest wrestler of all time. He made a family promise, which eventually Jr. interrupts Sr. in the interview. Blackjack Jr. then said that he wanted his dad to stay home sometimes and let him take care of his own battles. He went on his own to talk to his lawyers to get that second chance against Sergeant Slaughter for the Cobra Clutch Challenge. He warned that Slaughter won't get his money back until he gets that second chance. Blackjack Sr. then mentions that he used to get involved in past sports incidents from Jr.'s childhood and vows not to do that anymore. He does say they make a good tag team and they show a VTR of a recent tag team match of theirs against Jim Nelson and Ricky Harris. The tag match is from an arena show. The Blackjacks won the match when Sr. got Harris in the claw and covered him for the pin. Jr. ran in and stopped Nelson from making the save. They returned to the interview and Blackjack Jr. said that despite him wanting to fight his own battles, that he and his father still plan on being a tag team. For those of you, in case you haven't kept up with it, Blackjack Jr., of course, is Barry Windham. That was his name prior to, switching over to his Barry Windham name. That is then followed by Ole and Gene Anderson joining Bob Caudle and Ole tells Caudle that he needs a little more time to pick a new tag team partner. Sergeant Slaughter and Private Jim Nelson then show up and join Bob Caudle, and Sarge says that he is still irate over not being given back his $1,000. Slaughter asks Blackjack Mulligan Jr. if the pain of being put in a Cobra clutch is worth $1,000. Sarge says that he's had it with both Mulligan Jr. and his father. Slaughter wants his money back and asks Nelson if he's right, which Private Nelson screams that he is. Sarge warns Mulligan Jr. that he's going to get hurt bad. Next match was Jake the Snake Roberts beating Bill White after a big knee lift for the pin. Another competitive match that was kept pretty short. Piper on commentary compared Roberts' speed to that of Ricky Steamboat and then said Steamboat was probably the closest to him in skill, but he's no Roddy Piper. The last match on the show was Sergeant Slaughter beating Buddy Landale after Landale tried for a slam, but Slaughter got him in a small package for the pin. Slaughter's athleticism for a big guy was showcased a bit in this match. Sarge had a good mix of being a big brawler and a capable wrestler. Piper mentions that he's the only one who could beat Sarge for the U.S. title. Landale fought back quite a bit, including not letting Sarge get him in the Cobra clutch. Private Jim Nelson was ringside and distracted Landale, which led to his loss. After the match, Buddy Landale argued with Private Jim Nelson. Sergeant Slaughter got Landale from behind and whipped him across the ropes and into a clothesline. Sarge then got Landale in the Cobra clutch. Nelson kept the referee in the corner. Slaughter then tossed Landale to the outside. Blackjack Mulligan Jr. ran out and brawled with Nelson and Slaughter and eventually cleaned house. I thought this was an okay episode with a good final 10 minutes and the continued build-up between Sergeant Slaughter and Blackjack Mulligan Jr. The Blackjack's interview segment was great too. Roddy Piper was great on commentary. The early matches on the show were just okay. Definitely watch everything going on between Sergeant Blackjack Mulligan Jr. But other than that, I thought this was, again, an okay show. That's it for this review. Be sure to subscribe to the Retro Wrestling YouTube channel, and we will be back again soon with more reviews.